As twilight shrouds the old streets of Edinburgh, a young man sits by the window of a cafe, his fingertips brushing over the spread manuscript, his gaze fixed on the raindrops falling outside the window. This is David Hume, a giant of the 18th century Scottish Enlightenment. With his sharp skeptical spirit and calm speculative ability, he has split a path to the depths of cognition in the palace of philosophy. Humeanism does not hold high the banner of reason, like rationalism, nor is it as moderate as the early representatives of empiricism. Instead, based on the science of human nature, it uses the scalpel of doubt to dissect human cognition, emotions, and morality, putting forward a series of questions that are enough to shake the foundation of philosophy. From the necessity of causality to the illusory nature of self-identity, from the emotional essence of moral judgment to the origin of religious belief, Humeanism tells the eternal exploration of philosophy on the boundaries of human cognition. With every question and every deconstruction, the core ideas of Humeanism revolve around profound reflections on human cognition. By deconstructing causality, inductive reasoning, and the concept of self, it reveals the limitations of human reason and opens up new horizons for philosophical research. The doubt about causality is one of the most impactful views of Humeanism. In daily life and scientific research, people generally believe that causality is necessary. That is, if event A occurs, event B must follow, and A is the cause of B. Hume pointed out that all we can observe is the temporal succession and spatial contiguity of event A and event B, as well as their constant conjunction. While necessity itself cannot be perceived by the senses, he believed that causality is nothing but a habitual association formed by the human mind based on past experience, a mental propensity rather than an objectively existing necessary connection. For example, we see the sun shining on a stone and the stone becoming hot, so we think that the sun shining is the cause of the stone becoming hot, but in fact, we can only observe the constant conjunction of the two events, and cannot prove that there is a necessary causal link between them. The questioning of inductive reasoning is another important proposition of Humeanism. Inductive reasoning is an important method in scientific research. That is, summarizing universal laws and conclusions from a large number of individual empirical facts. Hume pointed out that the validity of inductive reasoning cannot be proved by reason, because inductive reasoning relies on the uniformity of nature, that is, the belief that the future will be similar to the past. However, the uniformity of nature itself is also derived through induction, which falls into the predicament of circular reasoning. For example, we have seen the sun rise in the east and set in the west every day in the past. So we conclude that the sun will always rise in the east and set in the west. But we cannot guarantee that the future will be the same as the past. And the reliability of this inductive reasoning lacks a rational foundation. The deconstruction of the concept of self further embodies Hume's skeptical spirit. Traditional philosophy holds that there is a unified and enduring self that is the bearer of all our perceptions and consciousness. Hume, however, believed that when we introspect ourselves, all we can perceive are various specific perceptions, such as sensations, emotions, desires, etc., and we cannot find a self that exists independently of these perceptions. He compared the self to a collection, or bundle of perceptions, which are constantly changing and perishing, like the constantly changing scenes on a stage, without a constant self as the core. This view completely subverted the traditional concept of self, and had a profound impact on later philosophy of mind. Humeanism also put forward unique views in the field of ethics, opposing the establishment of moral judgment on the basis of reason, and emphasizing the core role of emotions in moral judgment, forming an important ideological resource for emotionalist ethics. Hume believed that the role of reason is to discover facts and relations, while moral judgment involves value evaluation, that is, making judgments on the good and evil, right and wrong of actions. which goes beyond the scope of reason. He put forward the famous I-sought problem, pointing out that from the is propositions that describe facts, we cannot deduce the ought propositions that stipulate values. For example, we can know the fact of killing through reason, but we cannot deduce the moral judgment that killing is wrong only through reason. The making of moral judgment ultimately depends on human emotions. In Hume's view, the basis of moral judgment is human sympathy. Sympathy is a psychological mechanism that can feel the emotions and situations of others, enabling us to resonate with the happiness and pain of others. When we observe that an action can bring happiness and joy to others, we will have a feeling of approval, thus judging that the action is good. On the contrary, when an action brings pain and harm to others, we will have a feeling of condemnation, and then judge that the action is evil. This emotional reaction based on sympathy is the real source of moral judgment. Hume also distinguished between artificial virtues and natural virtues. Natural virtues are the virtues that humans are born with, such as kindness, generosity, compassion, etc., which directly come from human natural emotions. Artificial virtues are formed through human agreements and conventions, such as justice, loyalty, honesty, etc., and their emergence is to maintain social order and interests, whether it is natural virtues or artificial virtues. Their essence is the quality that can arouse human approval emotions.